Most yachts sit on top of the ocean. They float above it. They cruise across it. They use it as a backdrop, something beautiful to glance at from a sun deck with a cold drink in your hand. But this one is different. The Elysian Depth doesn't treat the ocean as scenery. It treats it as a companion. And I know that sounds like a beautiful line to put in a brochure, but wait until you see what that actually looks like. Before we go further, I want to tell you, if you want to make your yacht tours easier and more comfortable, I have got tons of great and helpful products for you. Check out the link in the description and the Get Products Delivered at your doorstep. The yacht you are looking at right now is fictional design and doesn't exist in reality. This is created for ideation and design purposes only. Let's get into it. Subscribe if you haven't already. So the first thing you notice when you're approaching the Elysian Depth, before you even step on board, is how low she sits in the water. But most mega yachts have that towering quality, right? You're looking up at them. They feel like floating hotels. This one is almost the opposite. She's wide, low. Along the entire lower hull, there are these crystalline observation membranes. Think of them like living windows that respond to the water around them. She knows she's in the ocean, and she shows it. From above, she has this beautifully clean shape. Wide midship, a gently tapered bow, and a stern that opens up into something we'll get to shortly. No clutter on the top decks, no mast forest, just this graceful, sweeping geometry that feels more like a piece of sculpture than a vessel. You board from the stern, which opens up into what they call the tidal hall. And look, I've walked through a lot of these entry spaces on this channel. Most of them are beautiful, sure, but they're also pretty familiar. You know the formula: a statement lighting, a staircase, some premium finishes. This is not that. Now, here's the space that I think will stop you in your tracks. The Abyssal Lounge is the social center of the Elysian Depth, and calling it a lounge almost undersells it. It runs the full beam of the yacht, which is considerable. Look up at the ceiling in here. There's a reactive installation, not a screen exactly, more like a living surface, that mirrors what's happening in the water below in real time. So whatever the ocean is doing underneath you, you see it running on your screens. At night, with the underwater lights active, it looks like you're suspended inside the sea. I don't know what else to tell you. It's just extraordinary.
Dining on most yachts happens up high, wide views, sky all around, very classic. On the Elysian Depth, they made a different choice. The Drift Hall, the main dining room, sits right at the waterline. The idea is simple. You're not dining above the ocean, you're dining beside it. From your seat, the horizon is exactly at eye level. The water is literally right there just beyond the edge of the table, if you're sitting at the side. When the sea is calm, it almost looks like the table is floating free, with nothing between you and the open ocean. At night, this room becomes something else entirely. The ocean goes dark and almost black, and the bioluminescent accents around the hull make the water glow faintly right outside. I want to show you something now that I genuinely didn't expect to be as remarkable as it turned out to be. The spa on the Elysian Depth is called the Kelp Forest, and that name is not just a bit of branding. Running the full length of the spa are these vertical aquatic gardens, living columns of deep-sea plant life, suspended in slowly circulating water. They're not decoration. They're connected to the yacht's living ecosystem. They purify the air. They create this extraordinary visual, these tall, slow, swaying green forms in the half-light. It is, without question, the most unusual wellness space I've ever come across. Each treatment room is a cocoon. The walls are translucent, the light is ocean-toned, and each room has its own small living water feature, a kind of personal tidal pool, built into the room itself. Laying in there, surrounded by that light, with the faint sound of water moving, it's not just relaxing. It's restorative in a way that's hard to describe. Now, for people who know me, you know I always end up falling for the quieter spaces on these yachts. The ones that weren't designed to impress, but just to feel right. The Ocean Library is one of those. It sits at the bow, tucked slightly below the main deck line, so it sits right at the waterline. Three sides of this room curved, frameless panels look directly into the sea, not across it. Into it. The angle means you see beneath the surface, down into the blue. And above? Books. A proper, carefully curated library. Curved shelves. Quiet, reading chairs, no screens. You sit here with a book, and the light that falls across the page is coming from the ocean. Not a lamp. The sea itself is lighting the room. I can't think of a more beautiful place to spend an afternoon. Here's where the Elysian depth really separates itself from every other concept we've featured. Most yachts carry a tender or two, maybe a jet ski if you're into that. The Elysian depth carries 2 personal submersibles, each designed for a crew of 4 and a pressurized descent chamber they call the deep dive pod. The bay has a central moon pool, a perfectly circular opening in the hull where the ocean comes right up into the yacht and the pod descends through it. You sit inside, the pressurization sequences, and then you go down. Not snorkeling depth, not recreational diving depth. We're talking real, deep water exploration from the comfort of an armchair. Inside the deep dive pod, it's warmer than you'd expect. Comfortable, even. Soft ambient lighting, so your eyes can adjust to the darkness outside the glass. And then when you're deep enough, you cut the interior lights, and there's just you and whatever lives down there. That's not a spa treatment or a sunset dinner. That's something else entirely. That's an experience that goes well beyond luxury. The owner space on this yacht isn't called a suite. It's called the habitat. And that choice of word tells you everything about the philosophy behind this entire yacht. It's a living environment. The entire space breathes. One side opens fully to a private deck, not a sun deck in the traditional sense, more like a terrace that gradually descends toward the water. There's a private pool that overflows toward the sea, designed so the horizon line and the water line appear to merge. The sleeping area is positioned above a section of transparent hull. When it's anchored in a calm bay, bioluminescent creatures drift past through the night. People say falling asleep here is like being rocked by the sea itself. And the private bathroom look. Here, the bath is positioned at the very edge of the stern, with the ocean as your backdrop, and a retractable canopy above that opens to the sky at the touch of a control. It's simple, elemental, and completely extraordinary. And then there's the Ether Observatory, the highest point on the Elysian depth. After spending so much time looking down into the water, through the hull, into the deep, this space does the opposite. It makes you look up. The dome here can retract fully, and when it does, ocean below, stars above, nothing between you and either horizon. There are just a handful of places in the world where you can feel genuinely suspended between the ocean and the universe. This is one of them. The seating here reclines flat, because at night, you don't sit here. You lie back and you look at the stars. The guest cabins on the Elysian depth are called tide rooms, and each one is different. Not just in decoration, in experience. Some of the tide rooms are positioned high, with wide sky views and a private terrace that faces toward the bow, so as the yacht moves, you're looking into the direction of travel. The horizon always in front of you, always moving. Others are at the waterline with that same underwater window view you find in the Abyssal Lounge, except here, it's private. You wake up and the sea is right beside your bed. Not a photo of the sea, not a painting, the actual sea. For some people, that might sound unsettling. For the right kind of guest, it's everything. I want to take a moment before we wrap up because I think this yacht deserves it. What we've just walked through isn't a collection of luxury rooms. It's a philosophy. Every single decision on this yacht, from the translucent floors to the submersible bay to the library lit by the sea, points to the same idea, that the ocean isn't something to be kept at arm's length. That luxury, real luxury, isn't about separation from the natural world. It's about closeness to it. The Elysian depth is fictional, we should say that clearly. But the idea behind her, the desire to be genuinely, intimately, breathtakingly close to the natural world while surrounded by beauty, that's real. And that, I think, is what this channel is really about. Thank you for watching Luminara Rides. If you felt something watching this one, if this touched something in you, please subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me which space on this yacht you'd spend the most time in, and we'll see you in the next one.